The following podcast is a presentation of Project Entertainment Network.
Hello, welcome to Staring Into the Abyss. I'm your host, Scott Kemper. With me, as always, is Michael Patrick Hicks.
What up, creeps?
And I guess he's Matt Brandenburg today. So, with us also is Matt Brandenburg number 2.
Yeah, sometimes known as Brandon, or Matt, or Matthew.
People call you Brandon a lot?
Oh my gosh. I think it's the curse of having the last name's really long, and two, the beginning part of the last name is kind of a first name. So I get it all the time.
Honestly, a lot of people just call me Gerlach, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, which works. It's just funny. Like, I'll get a comment and be like, "Oh, Brandon, that was a really cool review," or whatever. And I'm just like, sure. And then usually right after, they're like, "Oh, I realized your first name is Matt." And I'm like, it's fine, whatever.
So, speaking of name changes and being called by different things.
Oh, yeah.
Richard, do you want to fill in new listeners who might have missed our Apex episode about your name switch?
Yes.
Yeah, which is funny because you introduced yourself as Scott at the beginning of that.
Did I? Thank you. I am very sick today, so my brain isn't functioning properly. I'm having an allergy attack today, so if I'm coughing, it's not COVID. I promise you.
We'll see in 2
on
weeks.
time. So I have decided to kill off my pen name, Scott Kemper. Scott Kemper was a person who I made up. And he was slowly taking over my mind, and I decided to reclaim my identity. Kind of like the Stephen King novel, The Dark Half.
You know, I was just wondering if maybe you had eaten a twin as a fetus.
No, and on all honesty, I was writing and reviewing under the name Scott Kemper because in real life, I work a job that deals with the public, so I try to keep things a bit more personal when it comes to online. However, I realize now that most people know me by Richard Gerlach and not Scott Kemper. So if I keep up the Scott Kemper identity, it's just going to confuse people who know me and confuse people who read my shit. So eventually I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to go by Richard.
Yeah, it's just easier that way.
It is. Yeah. Part of the reason I use my middle name, which Michael Patrick Hicks is my real name, is because when I got into publishing, I found out I already knew that there were a whole lot of Michael Hickses, but there are quite a number of Michael Hickses publishing.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of Richard Gerlach's publishing. So.
No. In fact, there's a very popular sci-fi author, Michael R. Hicks, who people keep getting me mixed up with, despite Patrick and R being different.
You should just ride that wave up, man.
I guess so, yeah. If I could get his royalties somehow, that would be great.
Just get your book covers a little bit more sci-fi-esque, and then people will buy them.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, you got the Black Site.
Yeah, I've got Black Site. I got the 2 Dreamer novels, so maybe if I ever do some Amazon ads, I'll just go ahead and toss his name into the mix. Get my books to show up on his searches. That should help.
And besides that, I thought Scott Kemper had a cool ring to it.
It does. It did.
At the end of the day, it's just going to confuse people, and I'd just rather just go by my real name. If I get in trouble at my job, so fucking be it.
You'll just get some comments like, "Oh, you write that?"
Yeah, I mean, or I could, have a parent complain that I write that and then get in trouble, but
it's a possibility. I mean, my day job, like everyone knows the shit that I do. It has never caused any issues, so I think you'll be okay. I don't know if
even that furry erotica novel that you wrote.
Okay, well, we don't really talk about that one.
He just needed money at the time.
Yeah, I mean, you're young, you're stupid, you just do things for money. I mean, I had a coke habit. I had to fund.
Just spending your weekends coking, writing furry erotica.
Yeah, giving hand jobs in alleys. It was, it's a living.
It's a living. Hey, there's money in it.
Hey,
Yeah.
it's a life, man.
And that's all a joke if anyone is pissed off or offended by that or is a potential employer in my human resources office. That was a joke. I'll probably just go ahead and edit that out.
And if you're a furry, whatever, it's cool. You do your thing.
I don't judge.
I mean, we're living through a pandemic, right? We get these assholes who can't wear masks, and then you meet a furry, and it's like, okay, this guy can't wear a mask to save himself from COVID.
This guy's wearing a fursuit.
Yeah. What an asshole. He can't even handle this. Like, we'll go ahead and let Darwin sort that out for us.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes. Well, to get back on track, today's episode is going to be our first time discussing Alyssa Wong.
Yes.
And it's going to be her fantastic short story, Hungry Daughters of Starving Mothers.
Yes.
Before we dive into a weekly recap, have you guys read Alyssa before, or was this your first time?
I was trying to remember because this story was so familiar, and I'm trying to remember if I had read this in a collection or an anthology somewhere.
It's been in a couple best of anthologies.
That's what I thought. But so this probably was the only one. I might have read something else, but I think this is it.
Everything I read by her is really good.
I'm trying to. I'm sure I've read her previously. I don't know what that might have been. I certainly know of her, and I know she is currently writing Dr. Aphra in the Marvel Star Wars comics. And I was very excited to check those out.
Also writing for Blizzard, I think, still.
Oh, okay.
She had a job. I think she was writing either for World of Warcraft or Overwatch.
Huh.
So she has her fingers in lots of different pots.
Yeah.
But she's a really talented author.
She is.
But before we dive into this fantastic story, we like to do a weekly recap of bullshit we consumed in this last week. So I'm going to get started. I decided to watch the movie that appeared on Shudder called Impetigore. Now,
such a fun name.
It's a really fun name. The movie wasn't as gory as I expected it to be, but you do have a nice skin ripping off scene.
Nice.
You do have a nice throat slitting scene with then the person becomes skinned and their skin is leathered.
Oh, wow. They make a skin suit?
Kind of.
Kind of, okay.
The movie's about this woman who she was born in this backwater Indonesian village. And the opening of this movie literally gave me goosebumps. It's one of the legitimately scariest movie openings I've ever seen. And she's doing her job at a toll booth. And this creepy guy drives up in this old car and he's staring at her. And then he pays her to go through a toll booth. And he asks her her name. And she doesn't go by her birth name anymore. So she doesn't recognize the name he said. Then he drives away, parks his car, walks back to the toll booth while she's trying to call security to get him. And then he stands there staring at her and begins asking about her past and her village. And he says that he needs to do this or else it will never stop. And then he goes back to his car, takes out a fucking machete, walks back to her toll booth. She runs away. He ends up stabbing her in the leg with a machete. And just as he's about to kill her, security shows up and shoots him in the head.
Jeez.
And that's the first 4 minutes of the movie. It ends up with her going back to her hometown and she finds out there's a curse in her hometown where babies are being born without skin.
Nice.
And she's trying to find out how to break this curse and her relationship with the town.
Wow.
It's directed by Joko Anwar. He's an Indonesian director. He did the remake of Satan's Slaves. That's also on Shudder. But it's a fantastic movie. Easily the best horror movie I've seen all year. And that's saying something.
Yeah.
But Mike, what about you? Any recommendations from last week?
Crossroads by Laurel Hightower.
Oh, I just started that yesterday.
Holy fuck. That book just completely ruined me. I would put it up as a piece with Sarah Tantlinger's To Be Devoured. It's kind of, there's some thematic similarities. I mean, they're two wildly different explorations of mental health. But if you liked Tantlinger's book, I highly recommend you check out Crossroads. If you haven't read To Be Devoured, you need to read that and Crossroads. Check them both out. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And I think it's one of those books, like if any dudes, because it's always dudes out there that say women can't write horror, fuck you, and you don't know what you're talking about at all. This is,
I agree 100%.
Emotionally devastating, pitch black. It is awful in the best ways possible. I mean, it is just an exquisitely painful read, and it is about this mother who has lost her son. Her son died in a car accident 2 years ago. She is still very much processing that emotional grief of it. She has not gotten over it. She feels closer to him at his roadside grave than the actual cemetery plot where he's buried at. So she goes and every day visits the cross that has been erected along the roadside, just off the shoulder and in the woods where he was driving without a seatbelt and his car crashed and he got flung through the windshield and lodged in a tree, up in a tree. So she goes and visits the cross where his body was found. And she has like these mental conversations back and forth with him where she can practically feel that he's there. So it's very much a ghost story. But she has had an accident and cuts her hand and accidentally bleeds on the graveside. And later that night, she has one of the most vivid encounters with her son since he died. And she starts to realize that it wasn't just part of her psyche that was channeling this. She wasn't talking to herself. She was actually talking to the ghost of her son. And so she starts to figure out if there's ways that she can bring him back and help him cross back over. And she goes through some very, very brutal moments of self-harm in an effort to try and resurrect him. So, I mean, this is just an emotionally haunting book. It's also got some incredibly effective body horror. And I mean, reading it just as a parent, it is completely relatable in just how horrific it is. It's absolutely brilliant. It's one of the best novellas I've read this year. So if you haven't, check it out. Keep a bottle of whiskey handy. You're going to fucking need it. I finished this book and immediately had a drink right after I was done with it.
I will say for Crossroads, it is the debut novella for Off Limits Press.
Yes.
And it is correct. A very strong debut, and I'm really excited to see what they have planned for the future.
Oh my God. If this marks Off Limits, is that what they're...
The Off Limits Press.
If this marks what they're doing, what their intention as a publisher is, they're going to be one of the best small presses out there, and they are going to completely ruin you with every release. I can't wait to see what this does. Off Limits, of course, comes from Sam Kolesnik, who did True Crime from Grindhouse Press, came out early this year. And that was a fantastic book. So I think going from true crime to Crossroads, this being Sam's brainchild as a publishing house, that kind of gives you the pretty clear mission statement of what kind of books she's going to be putting out. And I don't know if I can handle it.
I'm actually looking at my Thunderstorm hardcover of True Crime right now.
Nice.
Ooh, that's such a good book.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Crossroads. I did pre-order it, and it will be here hopefully Tuesday. It comes out Tuesday for us recording. It's already out when you're listening to this.
Oh yeah, by the time this is airing, Crossroads has been out for a while.
Yeah, so
no excuse now. Go get it.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys listened to the latest episode from Ekeist, but Sean and or Shane. I don't know why I said Sean. It's like the Brandon thing.
We're fucking up everyone's name.
Yeah, they did a special one without Laurel, and it definitely it's a very excellent episode. It's a short one. It's only like 24 minutes, but they talk about Crossroads a lot, which got me even more excited to pick it up and read it. I'm ready for something devastating. I don't know. Most of the stuff I've been reading hasn't been very devastating lately, and so I'm ready for something to punch me in the gut a bit.
Well, this is going to do it. When I read, I mean, I can be emotionally involved in it, but there's usually a wall between me and the text.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't usually get too emotionally worked up over reading something, but yeah, this one got a few tears out of me. I was ugly crying during this one.
Nice.
Well, I mean, a son of a good book is an ugly cry.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Matt, what about you?
Let's see. I have a couple, but I'll go. This first one I'll pull out is: have you guys read Patience of a Dead Man, Michael Clark?
I haven't, but I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, it came out earlier this year, and I think he hit a lot of people with it. So like that, and it blew up a little bit on Twitter for a little while. I think because everyone was reading it at the same time, and I'm just a little bit behind. So I decided to finally give it a whirl, and it's good. It reminds me a bit of somewhat of like early Stephen King. One, it's set in early 70s, and it's up in, I think it's like a New Hampshire area. So, it's kind of in that, the Northeast a little bit, and it's divorced dad who decides this divorce was an ugly divorce. So he kind of like almost lost all of his money in his business. And the only thing he could do, or his best option, was to buy a house and then basically flip it. And so he gets this house with a ton of property, and he starts noticing ghosts. There's a woman and a little boy, and then there might be something else too popping around. And so he's kind of dealing with that, and then dealing with the pressure of like, oh, I got to flip this house, but there's these ghosts here that keep doing things and messing with me. So he he gets the help from his realtor, who they end up falling in love very quickly. Like at one point they taught in the book, like you realize he's only had the house for 2 weeks. And within these 2 weeks, he's practically moved in with this girl, and they're like an old married couple already, and it's only been 2 weeks. So that was something, but no, it's really good. It moves really fast, which was nice. You're not spending a lot of time with, you're basically right in there with the ghosts, and you're getting the way he kind of weaves in like the pressures of this being his last hope, and dealing with his ex-wife and his 2 kids, and then also dealing with this ghost that like the female ghost they discover was kind of like the wife of this like Civil War person. He died in training. He didn't even die in the war. And she's insane. She does all these crazy things, and she keeps repeating like every year on every date she does something. So it's like they find these journals, and that's where they get this thing. But so she kind of repeats the same acts over and over and over again, and the acts get crazier and crazier. And so you got a little bit of a mystery of trying to figure out who these ghosts are and how to stop them and not have them be there for whenever they finish selling this house. It's good. It has some really neat illustrations, which I wasn't expecting. Michael Clark added in, like, you got a whole building map of the house, you got of the land, because it's this huge property, and then there's all these scenes with calendars, so we get all these calendars in there, and so it's kind of fun to see all that stuff and then figuring it out. I think it's a part of a trilogy. Okay, good, because I have the second book.
I have all three. Michael Clark sent me all three for a review. I'm going to get to them soon. The second one is Dead Woman Scorned, and the third one is Anger is an Acid.
Nice. Yeah. And you can see that because the end definitely is leading you to another book. So, it ends. There is a clear ending, but there's enough of it where you're like, okay, there's more involved than what we've seen so far. So it's good. I enjoyed it. I don't know. I liked it a lot. I don't know if it's the best book I've read this year, but it's definitely a good one, and it's fun. It's got enough like mysterious ghost happenings and like the detail, the descriptions of the grounds and where they are and everything like that is great. I think the biggest little thing that was just so weird to me was that it, for the most part, it's third person, and it's sort of third person limited, but every once in a while we like kind of randomly detour into somebody else's brain for a little bit, and that was jarring at first, where you're like reading and you're in the main guy's I think it's Tom there's a Tom and a Tim, so it's very confusing. And so you're like, oh, who am I in? But then randomly you jump into the ghost, and then sometimes you jump into the realtor lady, and so it took me a minute to like realize what was happening with that, but such a minor thing when you're actually within the story that it's fine. So it's definitely worth checking out. Like I said earlier this year, it definitely was huge, and I think it's kind of disappeared a little bit just because the initial push kind of went away, but definitely hunt them down if you haven't read them yet.
Awesome. Well, I know Matt watched this movie. I watched Host on Shudder.
Yes. So much fun.
Host is pretty much Unfriended, but not shit. That's the best way to describe it. The movie was made during quarantine. Yay! Yes. And the whole movie's filmed over Zoom.
Yes.
And it's so much fun.
It's great.
Like, the acting it's super low budget. Like, the shoestring budget. But the acting is so good. And, like, the effects were really well used. And it had some really good scares.
Yeah, there was a number of like great jump scares.
I hate jump scares, but this one did them well.
Yeah,
and I can't complain about that. Like, what was it? The one when, because like it kind of plays into like the laptop cameras glitching out over Zoom and stuff. Yeah. So there's one where like their friend gets up and answers her phone and walks away, and she's doing stuff, and then like her camera glitches out. And in reality, her face is being slammed on her desk repeatedly. And then that fades away to like just her doing shit in the background again.
Well, yeah, they did this really awesome setup for that, because we probably all use Zoom, but I don't use Zoom enough to know. There's a way, I guess, like she figured there's a way to like record.
To set a background. That's like a pre-recorded background and stuff.
So she like set one of herself to pretend that she had more than one person in her apartment. So like, it's awesome. It's such like, what I loved about it was they set up a lot of it like perfectly, and it all comes back. So like they set up that so that way when you see her, and at this point everyone's freaked out because things are happening, and they're like, why isn't she answering? And then you realize that, it's just that background. Or the face filter things they set up.
Oh, that was a really good scare.
So messed up.
So like Zoom has like face filters and stuff. And the movie's pretty much like these people hold a seance over Zoom to spice things up. And one of them doesn't treat it seriously and invites a demon who just starts killing them one by one. And we can't see it with our own eyes. It's invisible. So there's a scene involving the face filters on like the laptop cameras for Zoom where the person's walking around and you see the face filter just floating in the air by itself.
And it's like a creepy clown-esque like filter. It's pretty messed up. That if I had one complaint, and this is always the challenge with found footage stuff, is them taking the laptops with them everywhere they go.
Yeah, but I mean, they were. It still made sense because they're trying to show their friends like they're still there with them and stuff.
Yeah, so like it works, but you're kind of like, man, if I was in the middle of that, would I want to carry my laptop around? I don't know, but it worked for the story.
It worked for the story, and to be blunt, people have been trying to do like screen time movies for a while.
Yeah,
like movies that just take place on laptop and phone screens. And we only have Unfriended, which sucks. Unfriended 2 Deep Web, which also sucks. And Searching, which is really good.
Yeah.
And now we can add Host to that, which is also really good.
Yeah.
So we're 2 for 4 when it comes to screen time.
Like I loved how I think it's perfect for now. I think it's perfect for quarantine. Perfect, like, because even that
like 50 minutes long.
Yeah, which is perfect, and it makes sense because that's like I think the limit of a free Zoom call is about an hour. So like it was perfect that it lined up just with that. And yeah, the effects. Some of those I was just like, how did they do that?
Like when the woman gets pulled up in the air and has her neck broken over the pool? Yes.
That was crazy.
Or the footprints part, that was good effect too.
Yes. It was, so it's great. There's one scene that that got me the worst. So they set up pretty early on. They have a friend who he is clearly one of the girls liked him, but he was dating somebody else, and he's at his girlfriend's house, and they have a creepy clown ventriloquist puppet thing. And I was like, please don't let that come back. Please don't let that come back. And of course they do. It's all set up for a joke, but at first, like, it just shows up on screen, like it's a blank, like just a scene of their living room or whatever, and then the clown kind of like hops its way in front of the camera, and I was like, motherfucker, get that off. Luckily it's set up that it's not real clown.
Host is a lot of fun.
Yes. That is a really quick turnaround for this movie too.
It got funded in April. Like in the end of April, he made a 2-minute short film on Twitter.
Wow.
And it's like, it's his, the director's Rob Savage.
Okay.
And the Twitter thing is like 2 minutes long. It's him and all the actors and people who are in this movie. They're in a Zoom call together. And Rob hears a noise in his attic. So he takes his laptop with the Zoom camera open and goes to check out the noise in the attic. And he sees like this demon creature who pushes him down, and he falls and cracks his head open on the ground. And his laptop camera just stays on his motionless body. And everyone's like, "Are you okay? Rob, are you okay? Is everything all right, Rob?" And it just ends. And then Rob just like tweeted at Fangoria, at Shudder, at all these production companies, and he was like, "Give me a budget."
I guess they did.
And it's a really solid movie, completely low budget, but it's just really well done.
Yeah. Well, having a low budget, that kind of forces you to be more creative.
Very much so. And this movie, they do a lot with a little.
Yeah.
Sounds like it. I'm just still amazed that, we're only at the beginning of August, and if this was funded in April, right, to go ahead and write this and film it and do the effects and get it released, that is an intensely fast turnaround.
Yeah.
According to the actors, a lot of it was improv too.
Okay.
Like they were given lines and stuff, but they were also allowed to improv between everything, which helped make it feel natural.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like Curb Your Enthusiasm, but
a little
bit. It's cool. And it, like I said, with the quarantine thing, it fits because you're sitting there watching it, and you can't help but think about like how they did it, especially with how they did it now. And so I think that helps a little bit with it, because they are so all in their own like apartments or houses, and it's just them, or like a husband is there, and like, so just that way it's quarantine-esque. And then like even at one point one of them leaves and is on her phone and she's masked up and she's running, and so it definitely like captures the time just perfectly.
Yeah. And I will say, I think Australia is putting out some of the best horror stuff right now. It's Australian, but I think Australia, they're doing a lot of good stuff right now.
Yeah. Did you watch it on your laptop?
No, I didn't.
I didn't either. I think that a lot of people were saying to watch it in the dark on a laptop.
I can see that being even more effective.
Yes. Because they capture, like, it looks like a Zoom call. Like it has the Zoom, like, you know.
I think they just took a Zoom call and recorded it.
Yeah. So
it just edited it after that.
it would feel, I could see it feeling like you're part of watching all of this. It's So it definitely worth checking out if we're still. I mean, check it out regardless.
Check it out regardless.
Yeah.
And my last recommendation, because we talk a lot of horror, but I think Mike and Matt can also vouch. We're big comedy fans too. We like to laugh. I decided to get HBO Max.
Oh, nice.
And I decided to watch The Righteous Gemstones.
Huh.
Which
Never heard of it.
Danny McBride, his new HBO show. And it's pretty much a takedown of evangelicalism.
Oh, nice.
But it's like Danny McBride style humor. So like the show's about this family of evangelicals who are stupid wealthy because they're evangelicals.
Oh, so they're like the Falwells?
Yeah. And the series opens with Danny McBride's the older son who's supposed to inherit their like big church business. And John Goodman plays like the patriarch.
Or maybe they're Joel Osteen.
Maybe Joel Osteen. And the video gets sent to Danny McBride's character of him in Atlanta with friends doing cocaine and having like a naked orgy. And they're trying to
Falwell then.
They're trying to blackmail him into like giving them $1 million, or else they release the tape.
Jeez.
And like the it's very Danny McBride. Like the humor's very dark. It's some improv. Adam Devine from Workaholics is in it. Walton Goggins is in it as well.
Oh, nice. And
you see his dong. So I mean,
well,
he bears it all in this role. I never thought I'd say that sentence. And the humor is just really spot on. Like my favorite joke was probably episode 2 when he goes to show his little brother the tape. And this little brother just sees like naked people and then them doing cocaine. He's like, "What are you doing?" And Danny McBride's like, "We're fucking partying. What does it look like? That's a fucking party." And it's just like it's really irreverent, but it's really fun. And after the bullshit we've all been through these last few weeks, we all need a good laugh once in a while.
Yeah, for sure.
So I recommend, if you want some irreverence, that's a good show to check out. But that's it for me. If you guys got anything else.
We're kind of running long, so I'm just going to say The Fearing, the 5th entry in The Fearing. I know we all thought it ended with book 4. There is kind of a new entry that John F.D. Taff put out for Saturday morning scenarios. They are turning The Fearing into a role-play game. And this new one, Blood and Brimstone, can kind of act as a new entry point to the Fearing series, or you can kind of read it anywhere between book 2 and 3. You can read it between 3 and 4, but it involves the backstory of Jacoby and Tam, 2 characters that we become familiar with as the Fearing series, the original series, winds down. And this kind of gives you the background of how they meet up and get into the places that they're at when we meet them in The Fearing Part 3. And it is really well done. I initially wasn't sure that I wanted to spend any more time with Jacoby.
Right? That was my concern.
Yeah. Like, if you've read The Fearing, if you've read book 4, then you know all about Jacoby. And he is not really the kind of guy you want to spend too much time with, but this is his ascent in the post-apocalyptic world. This one kind of fills in some of those cracks of how he got so much power and got into the place that he becomes in book 4. And it's actually, there's some really fun, very dark moments in here that I actually didn't mind reading about Jacoby for 100-some pages. And there's one scene, I don't want to give too much away here, but as Taff is trying, or as Jacoby is trying to bring together the remnants of humanity and rebuild things, Taff does this absolutely hilarious moment where Jacoby has to confront a total Karen who comes at him like hands on her hips. She just totally wants to talk to the manager.
You can't tell me to wear a mask. That disrupts God's beautiful breathing system.
I mean, you're not far off in how that plays out. And I was absolutely cackling. Like, you get to the end of the Fearing and Jacoby is just like the guy to hate. Yeah. But having him meet up with this complete wretch of a woman, this absolute bitch of a Karen, I was fucking cackling. I was like, yes. So that did a good bit of put me on Jacoby's side for this read, even though, obviously he is not a hero by any measure.
Yeah.
He's not a good guy. He's still not a good guy. This doesn't do much to rehabilitate him as a character, but it does nicely set him up for what he will eventually become. And it's just a ball. It's a complete blast. Some of the fear-based scenarios, because as you know, the Fearing is an apocalyptic scenario in which your worst fears come to life to destroy you and the world around you. This has some of the most creative fear-based challenges that I can recall in the Fearing. I think Taff just really cranks some of these scenes up to 11 and just goes whole hog with it. It's great.
I'm excited to check it out.
Oh, it's a blast.
Yeah.
Any more from you, Matt, or should we get on with the show?
Yeah, I got just, I think I got one more, and that is the anthology Silver Scream. David J. Shao edited this. This came out in the 80s. I want to say like 88 maybe. And they recently, as of like maybe a month ago, re-released it. And it is from, I think even Brian Keene, I think he was the one that kind of tweeted it out. And basically it's been kind of labeled as like one of the best splatterpunk anthologies of the 80s. And it feels like, I think a lot of people, this is one of the ones people have read that kind of get them started on a path of writing. And I can see why. It has almost everybody in it. It's Joe Lansdow's in it, Robert McCammon, Clive Barker, Carl Edward Wagner, John Skipp. I mean, I could go. The list is huge. It has everybody in it, and all the stories are kind of movie based. But what's interesting is it's not just like, oh, people go to a theater and watch a spooky movie and spooky things happen. I mean, it's like everything. There's, I think, F. Paul Wilson has a story in it, Cuts, and it's all about this like movie producer who produces, or movie director who does somebody's book. He kind of adapts it for a movie, and of course, as we all know, that they usually change and or butcher the book when they make a movie version of it. And the author's not too happy with it, and so does some voodoo, but the voodoo backfires on the author as well as the director.
So it's almost kind of a true story then.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you guys have read The Keep or then seen the adaptation of The Keep. But, boy.
This might have been a little bit of his response to that. But yeah, it's really good. This one has it's Joe Lansdale's the night they skipped the horror show, or night they missed a horror show, which we've covered, but it was fun to read that one again.
That's a hard story to read.
Yes, and that's one thing I did notice, and I was telling you guys before. Like I said, this came out in the 80s, and it has some of that language in it, which, you know, we've especially recently, we've gone through a lot of, like, when you look at some of these older movies or books and choices that they've made, and it's, you know, it can be tough to read and or see those things and not be like, oh, you know, that doesn't really fly right now, and I don't know if I appreciate that. So that's where. So this has that in it, and you know, that's a tough one to determine if you're good with that or not. You know, you can look at it in the historical context of that's what they said and or did back then. I mean, obviously, when we talk night they missed a horror show, there's definitely some word choice. I know Joe Lansdale made that choice because of what that story was, but you know, it sometimes can be a bit shocking. So just if you're hunting this down, be ready for that. But man, the stories are awesome. You know, the one I just read from Carl Edward Wagner, which we also covered two of his stories, Styx, and I can't remember the other one. I think that was Kiesling. That was
Hell's Creek.
Yeah.
With Cullen Bunn.
Cullen Bunn.
Yeah, that's it. I missed that episode. I wasn't in that one. But this one is another one where he just...
One of our shortest episodes yet.
I think I need to read more of his stuff. This story he picked, it's all, you know, basically about these two, you know, girl from small town goes to Hollywood to make it big, and she falls in with the wrong crowd and ends up drugs and doing porn and prostituting, and the person that she was with ends up making it big and completely avoids her. So you kind of wonder, like, where the story's going with all of that. If it's just because even like I don't have the book in front of me, but like the opening is something along the lines of like, we've heard this story a million times, and we know how these story ends of girl going to town and then basically losing her life. And so it goes like that all the way up into the very end, in which this woman, having participated in basically like a satanic porn ritual thing, picks up some of those spells and casts it on the person that basically put her down this path. And it's just like, in his style, just like the last page, it's like she like had all these like things of this guy, like she had nail clippings and hair and other bodily fluids, and put them all in these action figures. This guy they made action figures from the show this guy was on, and so poured them all in and cast, you know, some voodoo spell, and Carl Wagner just like at the end is like, oh, a little Timmy decided to put fireworks on this doll, and you know little Kim decided to chew on this, and all these horrible things. And then they just say, like, at the end, the actor, like, well, he just started screaming and just like fell down, and like we ended up having to lock him up because he like went catatonic from all this stuff. And it's just it was awesome. So I'm loving it. I'm about halfway through. It's great seeing all these authors together and putting out some amazing stories, and I would recommend hunting this down.
Cool. It sounds like lot of millennials will be rushing to social media to cancel this book. So,
it does.
Yeah, there's some choices.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it then.
Speaking of hunting, why don't we move on to our story for the day?
Yeah.
Hungry Daughters of Starving Mothers.
Yeah.
Hey, that was a good segue.
Well, it does start off pretty nicely with our lead protagonist doing a little bit of hunting.
Yes. So for the story, you can find it in a few best of anthologies. It's also free on Nightmare Magazine's website. It was first printed in issue 37 called Queers Destroy Horror. I have that issue on my Kindle. This is my favorite story from that issue, actually. It is fantastic.
That is actually where I read this as well. I have it on my Kindle right now. And before any millennials rush to try to cancel Nightmare Magazine, it's an ironic title, Queers Destroy Horror.
Yes.
Not a statement.
Yes, it's meant to be ironic. All the authors who are in this episode are part of the this issue are part of the LGBT plus community. Now, let's get on with the show. As Mike said, it begins with our protagonist who's on a date. And what's going on this date, Michael?
Well, she is going out with a guy named, she thinks his name is Harvey. She's not really sure what his name is. She's bored with him and has forgotten his name, but she can read his thoughts. So while he is going on about how awesome he is and how he's got this really great apartment in New York City overlooking the river.
He has a Tesla.
Yeah, he has a Tesla. He's a lawyer who's loaded with money. So he is just the best man ever, according to himself. But while he's talking himself up to her, he is thinking all about how he's going to fuck her hard.
And when he's done thinking about how he's going to fuck her hard, he's thinking of how he's going to kill her.
Yeah. Turns out Harvey is a serial killer. And I am completely blanking on what the woman's name is in this.
So her name pops up a bit later on in the story. We don't know her name in the very beginning, but let me get to where her name is because it is a little bit further down. Jen. And that's when she gets back home. Jenny, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, Jen. Yep. So she decides she's going to take care of Harvey in a way he will not appreciate. And she ends up sucking out his evil thoughts.
Yes.
Biting up his mouth.
And she kind of steals his body and consumes him.
Yeah. She's kind of a shapeshifter, you see.
Yes. And she lives off of other dark people's thoughts. Essence and dark thoughts.
Yeah, I was trying to decide, was it just dark thoughts or was it just his essence?
It's a bit of both. Because they end up turning into they take the thoughts and turn them into residue in jars that she feeds off on to keep her hunger.
Got a fridge full of jars of people's thoughts and memories and whatnot. But if they eat too much, if they take too much, they will kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's because later on when she goes to see her mother said, well, you took a big one or you took a bad one or something like that.
Well, it's because she took too much and she took the thoughts of a serial killer.
Yeah.
So she took, and those are supposed to be more delicious and more tasty and more fulfilling.
Yeah, it's a very
now she's losing control of her hunger.
And she can't quite meet that high again. She can't kind of recreate it. So in order to recapture this essence, she has to find more killers to consume. Yeah. Because once you've eaten a serial killer, you can't just eat a pizza boy next and expect it to be the same.
Which then puts her on a path where she meets another person who's just like her.
I really like the fact that she finds all of her potential victims on Tinder.
Yes. She also has a best friend named Aiko, who she seems to be in love with. Mm-hmm. And there's a complicated feelings between both of them.
Yeah.
And this new person who she meets can also read her thoughts and becomes interested in Aiko and wants to get to know Aiko, which leads them into a cat and mouse game between each other.
Yeah.
And eventually she's invited to a dinner party where one of the guests is Aiko and she's having her thoughts consumed.
Well, not just a guest. We learn early on that Aiko is a chef. And
she's a chef.
She's catering this party for this killer who is like Jen.
Yeah. And because I was trying to figure out, and I think I was wondering if she was I'm going to butcher her name, Xiao Yun.
Xiao Yun.
Xiao Yun. She, like, it almost felt like she was seeing how much Jen liked Aiko and decided, like, I couldn't tell if it was like her kind of like if it was like a punishment, maybe not a punishment, but like I'm going to take care of this person so I fully have you or not. Like I couldn't determine. That's what I saw
it as.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I kind of thought maybe it was a little bit more of flavoring for Jen. Like if she takes care of Aiko, that's really going to hurt Jen, and it'll make her taste better for Xiao Yun to eat.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
But
that makes sense.
I really liked the dynamic between Jen and Aiko. There's a great bit of sexual tension between them. And it's like Jen wants to be with Aiko, but she can't because she doesn't want Aiko to know what she is. So she kind of ends up blowing Aiko off in order to be with this third woman. But part of Aiko being a caterer and end up catering for Xiao Yun's party is that Aiko probably knew exactly what Jen was.
Yeah.
And Jen was trying to protect her, not knowing that she could have told this girl everything and they could have been together and they could have been happy and they could have had a really good, fulfilling relationship. But in order to protect Aiko, Jen cut her out of her life completely. Only to learn later, of course, that Aiko probably knew everything and is now herself becoming a victim of Xiao Yun, the woman she was trying to protect her from.
So then once she sees this happening, she attacks Xiao Yun to save Aiko, and she stops Xiao Yun's feeding, but it might be a little bit too late.
Yeah, it ends a little bit ambiguity on the ending. We don't know if her plan worked, if she was able to save Aiko or not.
And we also know that she's tasted a flavor that she cannot forget anymore.
Yeah.
And she needs more of it.
And then she has to go back home.
Yeah, she has to go back home. This is a really easy story to overview, but there's so much to unpack in this story.
Yeah, there is.
That I don't think we're going to be able to do it justice. Because there's a lot of dynamics where it comes to cultural dynamics. Like our main character being the child of Taiwanese immigrants, the cultural aspect of the Asian American community. You also have this lesbian relationship between Aiko and Jenny. And there's so much he packs in with so little. It's really impressive.
Yeah. And then you've got the parable of drug use or addiction at any rate.
Yep.
And
you've got a lot on here. There's a lot on the plate with this story.
There's a lot to consume.
Yeah, you've got addiction, you've got serial killers, multiple layers of serial killers.
Yes.
You got some nice spiritual horror.
Yeah.
Monsters.
Jen's mother accidentally ate her husband, and Jen grew up fatherless. And kind of hating her mother.
The thoughts of her father to keep her company.
Yeah.
And her mom,
a jar of her thoughts in mom's fridge.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, the mom stuff, because, she... I was trying to... Do you think it was accidentally that she did that to her father? Or her... I guess the mom's husband. Because just the way she acted in all of those jars, she has been doing it for a while, collecting people's thoughts.
Yeah, she's kind of hoarding them.
You kind of get that. There's the scene where the mom keeps bringing people home, and then they don't leave the house. So I was wondering if it was more out of anger because the dad kept harping on her, and then she finally just had enough of it.
I kind of saw it as the mother loved her husband. And she just lost control one day.
Yeah.
And she just took too much. And that's part of her warning to her daughters about taking too much. Because once you take too much, you can't go back.
Yeah,
that's what I saw it as. I don't know if you saw it as that, Mike, but...
Yeah, it's been a minute since I read this story, so I was kind of leaning more toward it being a deliberate act. But I could be mistaken. didn't have time to go ahead and reread this before we started.
It's left to our own imagination.
Yeah. As a fair number of things in this story are, I do kind of lean more toward her being deliberately doing this. And if I recall correctly, in hindsight, it's a bit more disturbing when Jen goes to her mother's and has dinner, and it's flavored with essences from those jars, and you're kind of wondering if she's eating her father.
Yeah.
Or the other Tinder dates that she's had.
Yeah.
And like I like that interpretation of like the addiction to like drugs and stuff, because the mom's house is just like a hoarder house. It's just full of stuff.
Yeah.
I also love the commentary about like modern day dating and like Tinder culture.
Mm-hmm.
And how it's just like you have all these guys who literally have no personality and just are vile people.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like there's a lot of commentary going on there as well.
Yeah, Harvey is definitely, I'm sure as a lawyer, he's probably lining up pro bono cases for men's rights activists. Would be my take
I'm
on
sure he's like the head of the Anti-Mask League New York 2020.
Right. This is pro incel.
I don't know, man. It seems like he has had sex before. So is he an incel?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he probably has to drug and rape the women before he kills them.
That's true.
Probably.
He gets them all liquored up and tries to tell them about how hot he is.
Show him his Tesla.
Yeah, because he has to convince the women that he's a prime piece of meat for them.
Right.
Guess the fucking guy.
I just love, like, throughout all of it, you kind of get this thing with Jen where she can see the thoughts as like just nasty little like bugs and snakes and like weird like clouds above their heads. I think that's such like a neat like concept, especially when you're talking about Harvey, because it's all like, like cockroaches and just like nasty things crawling across the floor, crawling across the table and everything. And yeah, I think it perfectly works for that. For that
and I
guy.
like,
there's lots of
kind of feeding into the addiction element where she keeps a jar of Harvey under her bed, hidden in a way that no one knows about. She kind of sneaks to it to kind of like sniff the jar or lick at it.
Yeah. Well, even like her mother at the hoarder house, like even Jenny's starting to hoard jars of people's essence in her apartment.
Yes.
And it's just like they're kind of like they have this secret need that other people can't know about.
Yeah.
But it's still there for everybody to see.
But they can't see what's in the jars, so when Aiko opens the fridge, she just sees like a bunch of empty jars.
Yeah. There's some really great imagery in this story.
There is. The one that particularly struck out for me is when she meets Sao Yun. They go on their Tinder date, and she learns that she's miscalculated.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know, or she didn't realize until she's too late into this, that Sao Yun is just like her. But Sao Yun kind of controls this restaurant, so when she snaps her fingers for the waiter to come over, they bring them a plate of essence.
And I love it. It's like, I don't eat because I have to. I eat because I want to.
Yeah.
Like, you have to eat it slow. It's like, oh, creepy.
I also love, like, just when, after she miscalculates, when Sao Yun's like, I'm not your head, love. Your thoughts are spilling out everywhere around you for everyone to see. So it's like, it even shows us that, like, Jenny's in a really bad mental state herself. And she was unprepared for this encounter.
Yeah. And then Sao Yun kind of takes a little bit of advantage of her and starts making out with her so she can eat Jen's thoughts.
And it's interesting, I'm looking back through this, and what's interesting is because there's a part where when Jen's first at the party and sees Aiko's coworker, and she's like, hey, I know you. And then, yeah, Aiko. And she's like, Aiko's here, and says that Aiko's been at every one of Siyun's parties. And that's where I'm like, did did Seoyeon learn of Jenny through Aiko? Or was it, vice versa? Because I guess it depends on how many parties she's had. But
I was thinking vice versa because she saw how important Aiko is to Jenny.
And so then hired the caterers to come to all of her parties.
Well, it's not even just that. It's more like maybe they're just because the caterers specialize in like the specific cuisine that they're into, and so it was more. I saw it more as like a coincidence that like Aiko was one of the chefs for this catering company that Seoyeon had been using for a while. Yeah. But after knowing her importance to Jenny, she deliberately sets it up again because she knows Jenny's love for Aiko. I
see.
Yeah. That's how I saw it. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of, because it's interesting because later on or earlier on when they're on their Tinder date, she asks Jenny why she hasn't tasted Aiko yet, and I thought that was an interesting kind of look. There is a lot to unpack in this story.
There is. I mean, it's Alyssa. I've read a few Alyssa's stories before, and there's always a lot to unpack in them. This one's no different. I think she needs a short story collection out now.
Yeah. As soon as I finished the story, I went on Amazon and I was looking her up to see what books she had. And unfortunately, there aren't any. There's a lot of short story contributions to magazines, but nothing that is purely Alyssa Wong, which really bummed me out because I wanted to buy a couple.
She has a couple tour singles on Amazon.
Yes. Yeah, I think I already have one or two of them, but I wanted a book. I wanted a book of her stuff.
Hopefully we get one soon.
I hope so.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because she's definitely one of when I first read her maybe 4 years ago at this point, I was just as soon as I finished it, I wanted to read more of her.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to find her stories because they're in anthologies and magazines, and it's kind of impossible to follow short story authors from magazine to magazine these days.
Yeah. Right. And anthology to anthology gets pretty damn expensive after a while.
Yes.
But yeah, she has such a great voice. I really, really dig her work. And like I said earlier, I'm excited to see what she does with Dr. Aphra because that character has become kind of one of my favorite Star Wars, I guess you call anti-heroines.
Yeah. And she has a lot of stuff too. There's another comic that she worked on called Arrow, Aero. She's working on Dr. Aphra. She actually worked on an Adventure Time comic.
Nice.
With Grady Hendrix and Adam Seizure.
Oh, wow.
Called Adventure Time Spooktacular #1. It came out 2017.
I love it.
I'm a big Adventure Time fan, speaking candidly.
Me too. Literally was just watching it before this.
I'm an old man, and I have no idea what the hell that is.
Oh, man. It's amazing.
It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
And Alyssa Wong, if she's able to get a short story collection out, I would buy it up the second it comes in print.
Yeah. Absolutely. So if our friends at Apex are listening, or whoever else, I don't know, Crystal Lake.
If Tor listens, if Nightfire wants to put out a collection.
Oh, she would be really good for Nightfire.
Because she's done Tor singles before, so she's part of the Tor family.
She has. And Nightfire, Jesus Christ, they're killing it with their announcements. And they're killing me because everything that they've been putting out, it's like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. And then you get to the end where it's like, oh yeah, this is releasing in 2022. Like,
yeah.
Why are you killing me like this?
By then.
Yeah.
So I think we're all in agreement. Everyone needs to read Alyssa Wong, and especially this story.
Yeah, and I definitely need to read more Alyssa Wong.
Yes. And for our listeners, you can buy the issue on Amazon for $2 for your Kindle. Or if you just
buy it directly from Nightmare Magazine and give your support.
Nightmare Magazine is also very cheap.
Jeff Bezos doesn't need your $2.
I don't know, man. You ever see that rice analogy where it had the Jeff Bezos' wealth measured in grains of rice?
I mean, the time we've been recording, Jeff Bezos has already made $36 billion.
Also, if you just go to Nightmare Magazine's website, you can read the story for free, and Nightmare Magazine's going to get ad revenue from you going to their website. So you want to support horror, support these great authors, and support these fresh voices.
Yes. Well said.
Thank you. I try. Usually comes with something like a mess, but sometimes I'm on it.
Well, I'm glad you put a little bit of effort into this thing.
Appreciate it.
I always put effort into our shows.
Good. At least one of us does.
Yeah. I think that's implying that Matt doesn't.
Yeah, what the heck?
Well, I don't either, so it's it's 2 against 1.
That's true. So
it's your show. You should care.
I care a lot about this show. I care a lot about our listeners.
I do too. I'm just being a dick.
Yeah. Our listeners keep us going. And speaking of our listeners, if you have a short story recommendation for us that you would like to hear us discuss, maybe tweet it at us and we'll think about talking about it.
And be sure to rate and review and keep us going.
Yes.
We keep going, you keep us going.
Where can our listeners get in touch with you? Are you still on your social media break?
I don't know yet. I'm kind of back currently right now at the start of August on Twitter at MikeH5856. I am completely off Facebook because fuck that place.
Yeah, no, seriously.
But you can also find my website at michaelpatrickhicks.com. Keep me going and buy some of my books.
Yeah.
Especially the Salem Holly books. Those are fucking awesome.
Oh, thank you so much.
They are pretty amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Matt, where can listeners get in touch with you?
Well, I am on Twitter at BrandenburgDM. Yeah, that's probably the best place.
Awesome. I'm also on Twitter at Rudy53088. And you can get in touch with the podcast at Into Staring. This is Richard Gerlach saying keep staring.
What evil lurks in the heart of Don Mondo? Only Chucky the Buddha, the enforcer of the Mondo Mafia, knows. Join them each week on the Mondo Method podcast as Chuck tries to get Don Mondo to reveal what is best in life and where he hid the bodies. Oh, they also talk about writing and being professional authors. The Mondo Method podcast with Armand Rosamilia and Chuck Buddha, weekly wherever you find your podcasts.
This has been a presentation of the Project Entertainment Network.